to Cannabis Health Radio, where we share powerful, real-life stories from people around the world who are using cannabis as medicine. The goal of this podcast is to raise awareness of the healing potential of cannabis and is not intended as medical advice. And now, here's your host, Ian Jessop.
Welcome to the Cannabis Health Radio podcast. I'm Ian Jessop. Today on the podcast, we're going to go down a different path and talk about a subject only a handful of people have briefly mentioned in the hundreds of interviews that Corey and I did over the years. And that subject is psilocybin mushrooms. Admittedly, it's a topic I know absolutely nothing about, but hope to learn more from today's guest. It's interesting. I found this interesting information on the website GreenMed Info, which states the following. In 1971, the U.S. government classified psilocybin as having no accepted medical use. This year, last month as a matter of fact, scientists discovered it could extend cellular life by 57%. Now, here to enlighten us on the health benefits of psilocybin mushrooms is a friend of the show who knows a lot about this topic, Robin Swan of Swan Apothecary in California. Robin, how are you?
I am good, Ian. Thank you for allowing me to come here and talk about this.
No, this is really interesting. Have you tried psilocybin mushrooms yourself?
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
So just as a preamble to all of this, I am an indigenous person, and I grew up in the Native American church, which is a sacrament is used in that church called peyote. And peyote is not psilocybin. It's not a mushroom. It's a cactus. However, it is a psychotropic substance. So I fed it to my children when they were born. So literally, I've been using psilocybin since I've been like little girl. And I started, should I just launch into why?
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things that I love about psilocybin mushrooms is that just like cannabis, they grow on every continent. So they are an open practice for us as human beings. They're not held by ceremonial gateways or certain tribes of people because they are available to us everywhere in the wild. They're, and also, I'm not sure if you know what the mycelium is. So the mycelium is basically what is the underneath of the fruit, which we call the mushroom. Mm-hmm. And that, if you look at a picture of mycelium, it maps out just like our central nervous system. And if you go through the creation theory of meteor hit the earth, life was started from that. The first thing that came about out of the water was the mycelium. And so it just grew throughout all of the ground. And then from that came the trees, the bushes, the shrubs, the animals, the people. So I like to say we are the mycelium. And I incorporated it into my apothecary, my practice, and working with people in 2014 because I saw a tremendous need that wasn't getting addressed with cannabis, and that was depression, first of all, and then also brain cancers. So I started thinking about what is the brain? The brain is basically a mapping of our entire central nervous system in jelly. That's basically what it is. Mushrooms create something called neuroplasticity. They open up new neural highways within our cerebral cortex. So everything falls into pattern. Our whole life is a pattern. You get up, you do your little business, and most people do exactly the same thing all the time. And this happens in our central nervous system too. It gets into patterned ruts, if you will. So when we incorporate something like mycelium or psilocybin specifically, it helps create new neural pathways, which means that it opens up a whole new set of neurons and a whole nother way for our body to receive information and healing. And therefore it gives the patterned nerve system a break, and it hands off of it so it can repair. And what we know about cancer is that it's an anomaly of cells that is birthed from nerve death. Because once the nerve dies, there's no oxygen, blood pulse, or nerve pulse to that area. The cells begin to split, and this is how cancers are formed in our body. So I worked in the NFL for a long time. I worked in pro sports for about 15 years. And in doing that, I encountered a whole bunch of traumatic brain injury, concussions, and cannabis really wasn't affecting the change that I wanted with my clients. So I thought, why don't we try some mushrooms? That might work. And what I noticed is that people, especially those who had concussed, because when you have multiple concussions, you end up in a very depressive state. Your brain is like dead in certain parts. They were coming back alive. Their depression was exponentially reducing, and their cognizant ability was like increasing as well. So I saw these like catapultic differences in people that I wasn't getting with cannabis that I started getting with mushrooms.
Robin, it's interesting you say that, because I was reading a couple of weeks ago that NFL players, football players, who left their body to be analyzed after they died, their brain to be analyzed, 99% of them had brain dysfunction because of the concussions. Concussions are very, very serious.
Very bad. Yeah, they're very serious. And so people that play pro sports, let's say like pro ball players who are playing at the NFL level, they are just like doctors. They are starting as little boys, little girls in these sports. They've got multiple concussions before they even turn 20 years old. And then they go into the sport and more concussions. One of my clients had 12 concussions while playing in the NFL. And when I first started working with him, and he's a very famous person, I'm not going to drop his name, but he's somebody that you hear on Monday Night Football all the time, okay? So the very first time I met the man, it was like he couldn't even make a sentence. Like it was like his brain was so concussed, and he's a very smart, very incredible athlete. So I started microdosing him with psilocybin. And in just a short amount of time, like 3 weeks, he was like speaking, and he didn't have that blank stare in his eyes.
Yeah.
And the most amazing thing was he was having these massive migraines that would just not let up, no matter what pharmaceuticals, no matter what. They went away completely. And he hasn't had a migraine since then. So I want to kind of talk about psilocybin in the way that there's a number of ways to work with it, especially when you're living with cancer, because that's the focus of what this podcast is about. And, and so I was like, wow, that's really amazing what happened with him. And I treat a lot of people with brain cancer, unfortunately. And I've noticed that there's different types of psilocybin mushrooms. So what we know, like on the collective, are things called cubensis, all right? But there's also azurescens, and then there's another one that has a super long, complicated name that I'm not even going to bastardize it here today. But so cubensis grow like in dirt, they grow in poop, they grow like that, right? Azurescens they grow on wood and reeds. And then the other one was the phylorescent. They grow also in different types of environments. So an azurescent is a mushroom that grows differently than a cubensi, which is a very electric mushroom that people associate with tripping. Okay. So an azurescent actually just goes into the body, and it's more like an internal trip, and it helps the brain create neuroplasticity. It creates space in the brain, and I have seen it help my clients who are living with brain cancer exponentially. Now, I'm not going to say that it's deleting tumors, because that's not what it does. So what it does is it removes the inflammation, it removes the headaches, it removes the eye movement that happens sometimes with brain cancer, and more than anything, it allows the people who are living with these issues to be able to be present in their life. Because when you get a cancer diagnosis, it's like being hit by a bus. And I mean, I had 2 conversations yesterday with people that made me just want to go out and slap the crap out of their oncologists, because, oncologists are very super, what's the kindest word I can use for them? Because, they are kind of like idiot savants in a way, because they, just like pro ball players, are tracked into oncology from like 4th grade, let's say. So one thing that they miss is the ability to connect with human beings. They miss that personal connection. And
Yeah.
I kind of lost my track there. So these people had been told these things that they should have never been told by their doctor because they didn't have the facts to back them up. They put them in this massive fear spot, like, oh, I see lesions on your cervix. You must have cervical cancer. No, that's not true. You could have something like PCOS. You could have like a whole bunch of other issues to have lesions. And without any tests, you shouldn't be saying that. So I find that mushrooms provide people the opportunity to really sit with themselves when they are given extraordinarily difficult news to ingest.
Robin, are you saying that there are various forms of these mushrooms that do various things? And you mentioned the azaresin. I think that's how you pronounce it.
The azaresin, yeah, the azaresin, yeah. Oh, yeah. Here's the deal about this is the most fascinating thing.
That's the one that gets you high. Do
That's
the
when
other?
well, they all. I mean, depending on how much you take, they're all going to get you high. Just like with cannabis, like how
Okay.
you use it dictates what your experience is.
Yeah.
But azaresins are not electric. So cubenzis are very electric. They're very external. They're what people associate with lots of colors, lots of movement, walls melting, hallucinogenics. Those are a cubenzi. Azaresins don't have those properties. They're a way more internal experience. And what that means is that it's just, I guess the best way that I can explain it is to say it puts space in your brain. So, when you get when you get a diagnosis or you're dealing with a lot of trauma, compounded PTSD, or complex PTSD, your brain, like, you can't receive information.
Yeah.
You short circuit because your receptors are full, basically. So the azarescent specifically allows for that neuroplasticity to open up, create new neural pathways. So when you're getting the information, you're receiving it from a different place in your brain than that patterned fear response.
It's interesting because the information I read in the introduction is that Johns Hopkins University, Harvard, and Emory University, over 170 clinical studies have documented psilocybin's therapeutic potential. And it says across an astonishing spectrum of conditions. And you've mentioned some of them: treatment-resistant depression, anxiety, PTSD, end-of-life existential distress.
Yes, and that's something I'd like to touch on a lot.
Okay.
Right.
Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease.
Yeah, Parkinson's, it's amazing with Parkinson's, like really amazing.
Yeah, and cluster headaches, chronic
Yes.
pain, traumatic brain injury recovery, which you talked about, immune system modulation, chronic inflammatory conditions. These are astonishing, but you know what? It doesn't conform with the pharmaceutical industry's drug issue.
Well, of course not. I mean, nothing that you could grow in your garden is going to conform with the pharmaceutical, industry, because therefore they can't market it or sell it to you.
Yeah.
And that's the deal. So I just want to say that, mushrooms, although a very small percentage of them are deadly. Like only 1% of mushrooms are deadly. But I don't want people going out into their forest, picking up mushrooms and like Amanita muscaria, which is what everybody pretty much knows. It's the Alice in Wonderland mushroom. It's red. It's got white circles on it. It grows all over Oregon, and it grows all over this country. It will kill you if it's not dried correctly. So please, nobody who's hearing me, go out into the woods and forage mushrooms and just go eat them and think that you're going to have a spiritual experience, because more than likely you won't.
Yeah.
You'll have a bad experience. So it's really important when you're working with them that you're working with people who know what's up.
Tell me about the treatment of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. I find that fascinating.
So both of those are like, they're like, they make the nervous system staccato, like boom, boom, like the flow is interrupted. So when we introduce a psilocybin, it helps create that flow as well as open up a new pattern of nerves for the brain to use. What I've seen with my Parkinson's clients is the lack of shaking.
Yeah.
Okay. And then also there's a lot of mood swings that come with Parkinson's, especially Parkinson's medication. It can be very difficult on the person's personality. And the mushrooms just kind of help them sort of navigate the day, if you will, not get caught up in those highs and lows. And then with Alzheimer's and dementia, people become like fluid and current again. Like they stop flipping into those, like grandma doesn't remember you, grandma remembers you. So it just builds the brain back up by getting that nerve system to continue its connection.
Tell me, Robin, cannabis can be taken in many forms, including a tincture. Can the same be said of mushrooms?
No. Okay, so mushrooms are very specific, the way that they're ingested. My dog is... I'm sorry.
That's okay. Do you want to let your dog
I'm having
in?
a dog problem. Can I just let him out? Because he's just moaning at me. I'm so sorry.
Sure, that's okay. Yeah, we have this issue on an...
Yeah, you can edit me. I'm sorry. He's just sitting here moaning like, oh. Okay.
No.
So, I'm sorry.
It's like a bitchy husband, right?
Totally, it's exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
So
we're talking about Alzheimer's and Parkinson.
Alzheimer's specifically, is that it just helps the user. And how can you use it? Is different. Okay, so one psilocin is the active ingredient in psilocybin. Once it's activated and pulled out, it's only active for 3 days. Okay. So if you eat the raw mushroom and the way that you ingest it, right? So if you eat a mushroom, it's going to go into your blood system. It's going to break down through your stomach, and it could take up to 4 hours for you to feel it, which is a lot. So we have different various products that help. Like we have a psilocin product, which means that it's pulled the psilocin, which is your stomach. I'm sorry, Ian, there's so much information. I'm having a hard time organizing it in my mind to give it out. So psilocin, the active ingredient of psilocybin, is pulled through our stomach acid. This is why people will say, I had such a bad experience with mushrooms. My stomach hurt so bad, because it was their stomach that was pulling out the psilocin, and that's when they get high. So what you've eaten when you take mushrooms matter. How you take them matters. We have products that are encapsulated, and we always let people know that it could take up to 2 hours for that capsule to activate. We have a chocolate bar, so while you're eating it, just like with cannabis, your saliva is going to break that blood-brain barrier with that psilocin, and it's going to be a faster experience for you. Okay, but you're still going to have the part where your stomach is pulling it at that active psilocin out. So we pull it with lemon juice. We have a couple different products that you can either do it yourself, or we have a chocolate product that's made with psilocin, and it needs to be in the refrigerator, because if it's exposed to air, in 3 days it's done. So we extract the psilocin with lemon juice, and then we mix it into a white chocolate, and that is you're feeling the effects of that within 15 minutes. And that's a really wonderful product for somebody who can't do the stomach acid. But the azurescent doesn't have that experience, because the psilocin, it's the highest level of psilocin in any mushroom, and it's just more available for our body to receive, is the most scientific way I could say it.
Okay.
So somebody who is dealing with end of life issues would not be an azurescent match. Okay, somebody who had brain trauma, that would be an azurescent match, because that mushroom specifically works with the brain.
And people who want more information on your products can go to swanapothecary.com.
They can go to Swan Apothecary, and you can actually I wrote a whole book about it because I'm so passionate about it. It's called the Psilocybin Compass, and it's a free download, because education is so important to me, and so many people get hosed, and I'm just so upset at that happening within our industry on all levels. And with all of the scariness out here in the world, fentanyl and other drugs that are being laced on even something as simple as cannabis, I really don't want people going to their local drug dealer, and trying to get mushrooms. The way that mushrooms are grown really matters. They can mold really easy. So we don't want people eating mold, right? They also absorb their environment. There's a great film by Paul Stamos called The Fabulous Fungus. Fungus, yeah, fungi, the fabulous fungi. I think it's on Netflix still, and anybody who's interested in mushrooms should really watch that film.
Yeah, he's been studying that for
his
decades.
entire life,
Yeah.
and he's one of my mentors and teachers, and I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to sit with him so many times and learn from him. So the stomach part is a little hard for people sometimes, and that's why we have a product that we call Lemon Tech, where it's actually they receive, and this is a perfect thing for somebody who wants to journey and really sit with themselves. And that's a 3.5 grams of mushrooms. We call that a quote unquote hero dose. That is not a microdose. And then they, soak those mushrooms in lemon juice, extract it, and drink the lemon juice, and they have that experience right away.
Oh, interesting.
So
what is the difference between a high from cannabis and a high from psilocybin mushrooms?
Well, they're nothing alike at all. Okay, so where cannabis can sometimes send you definitely inside of yourself, it's not going to ever give you visions, usually, unless you've accidentally eaten, a gram of FECO. That might give you a vision.
Yeah.
You're not going to have, mushrooms are alive. So when I compound cannabis, I don't care if I take 30 different strains of it, I'm combined, and when I combine it and compound it and extract it, I get a cannabinoid profile. It ceases to be indica or sativa. It's just cannabinoids. When I combined mushrooms, like I do with a lot of our products, mushrooms stay in their own lane. They don't blend into one thing. So if I use a mushroom that's really heart opening, and one that's super visual, and one that's going to really, get you to giggle, you're going to have an experience that's like all of those things at different moments in your body as it breaks through your blood system. I personally like that a lot. Mushrooms bring us, there's a theory, I hope everybody appreciates this theory, that the way that humans have evolved is when we were like ape people, walking around being apes, we started eating mushrooms, and they opened our brain. They expanded our consciousness, and that's how we became human beings.
Yeah, that's a really interesting story. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about using mushrooms, and some of the fears that they have?
A lot of people are afraid that the walls are going to melt, and they're going to have a really bad experience, and they're going to have all of these horrible visions and feelings come up. And this is where I recommend that you sit with a guide. I've been sitting with people for 20 plus years, one-on-one and in small groups. So if you're nervous about that, sit with a guide, because no one's ever died from mushrooms. They're not like LSD. They don't change your brain exponentially. Like they're not a chemical compound. They're a plant. They're a fungus. So they last for 4 to 6 hours, but the afterglow can last weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting. How different is it from ayahuasca?
Incredibly different. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, ayahuasca should be a closed practice, one that is held by the tribe that it comes from. Also, ayahuasca will make you throw up, and both ends of your tube will evacuate. So I don't understand why people want to go pay a ton of money for that and do that for 3 days. Mushrooms are a kinder, more gentler experience than that. The worst thing that's going to happen is you might get a tummy ache. So that's why I recommend, if you're very sensitive, that you do a lemon tech process. Lemon juice is what pulls out psilocin. You can't do it with orange juice. You can't do it with grape juice. It needs to be the high acid of lemon. And that activates the psilocybin, or the psilocin.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I tried mushrooms, and listening to you, it was a disaster because nothing happened. But listening to
that can happen too. So you didn't eat enough. So that says that you didn't eat enough.
Oh.
If you have an experience where you didn't have anything happen, there's a couple things that are going on. The first one is you just didn't take enough. The second one is that you have too much food in your stomach. So you have to, like, I had an experience, I test the products that we make, right? So I ate these little chocolate things that I had made, and I was like, these are a dud. And then I woke up the next morning just high as balls, and I was like, what is going on? And what I realized is that I had eaten those mushrooms, and I was at a barbecue, and then I chowed down on all the barbecue. So it took my body the whole time of digesting that beautiful meal that I had eaten at this party before I received the experience of the psilocin in my body. So I was like, oh, it really matters what you eat. Now you have to eat some food with it because you need to break it up within your stomach. And that's why the mushroom chocolate bar is so awesome, because you're creating saliva, you're, getting your stomach acids to work. But if you're just doing raw mushrooms, then I suggest that you eat some fruit and some salad with them as well. Like, you have a very light meal to help your body have that, digestion, not barbecued chicken or beef ribs. Don't do that.
Robin, you mentioned your indigenous background, and I'm wondering how you come up with the products that you do. Is it just experimentation?
Yes and no. So I do a lot, I hate to say this out loud, but I do a lot of praying, okay? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the work that comes together on any product, anything that goes to market from my store has had 2 years of R&D, research and development. So I don't just make something and be like, now let's give this to everybody. Yeah. So I think about, how is this going to be received? What's its shelf life? And a lot of times I think, what happens if the dog or the kid gets a hold of it? Because, we're pretty irresponsible as adults. We just are. And I want to make sure that if someone's child or someone's dog gets a hold of our product, that they're not going to end up in the emergency ward. Now, I can share a kind of a funny story here, because when we first started doing the mushroom bar, we weren't writing that it was so like hush hush, and I was so afraid to get in trouble that I wasn't putting, psilocybin mushroom bar on my label. And then, I had a couple calls, some from the police and some for some doctors, because someone's dad ate a whole entire mushroom bar. That's 7.5 grams of mushroom. Okay. So he ended up in the ER, and he was just tripping balls totally, but he was completely fine. What brought him to the ER was that he was seeing visions, and his heart rate was really high, and he just didn't know what was going on. And the part that amused me the most out of that is, he was in LA, is that the doctors reached out to me and said, can we get those mushroom bars, because we really need them. So I ended up getting all these ER doctor clients from it. And then I had another experience with somebody in Massachusetts or Michigan, and I was actually called by a police officer, and I was like, oh no, I'm in so much trouble. But, I feel like this, I am accountable to what I put out in the world. So if you're the police and you're going to call me, I'm going to hold my own and have that conversation with you. And they were more concerned about how I had got it to Michigan than what had happened with it. So nothing bad ever happens to anybody. It's just like when somebody uses too much cannabis and they're not ready for the experience. So we do what we're told to do, which is go to the doctor. And then the doctor's like, hey, dumbass, what are you doing? You're high. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, and where did you get that stuff?
And where did you get that? Can I get some too? That's what I've noticed more often than not. So there is a process that I go through and with making stuff, and that's why we have the psilocin products, and that's why we have the Journey product, which is the lemon tech, and that's why we have the pills, and why I have the azurescent, because it's not one size fits all. And oftentimes I'm talking to people about cannabis, they're reaching out to me because they have these issues and they want cannabis to help them. And I'm like, you need mushrooms. You don't even need cannabis. CBD isn't going to touch that, because let's think of it like this. Cannabis, especially the CBD family, heals our central nervous system. Mushrooms heal our brain. Cannabis doesn't heal our brain. It doesn't work within our neural net. It doesn't work within the cerebral cortex. It doesn't remap our secondary central nerve system.
What about all those interviews we did with people who have had brain cancer and used cannabis?
Because the cannabis is treating the cancer.
Yeah.
That's different. Mushrooms don't treat cancer. Cancer is an entity.
Gotcha.
It's its own thing. It's an anomaly of cells. So mushrooms aren't going to go. Cannabis goes into that anomaly of cells and deletes it.
Yeah, now I understand you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. It reminds me of a story that Corey told me last year when she said, God, we were out for coffee. And she says, I've got about 8 oncologists calling me. They have cancer, but they don't want to use conventional treatment. They just want to use cannabis. And I said to her, isn't that interesting? Here's a group of people who recommend chemo and radiation for people, but they won't take it themselves.
Right.
And it's fascinating.
That's the problem right there.
Yeah.
And therein lies the problem. I think that at this point in our world, with our crazy American government and the crazy Minister of Health, Robert Kennedy Jr., that there is so much misinformation right now. And I always like to encourage people to get all of the information that they possibly can before they start making decisions, and that they themselves know what's right. So when someone calls me and they are definitely at the end of life stage and they want to do 60 grams in 90 days and all these kind of like things that I'm like, okay, well, I'm sorry, but we are carbon-based beings. We are basically plants. And once our root system is damaged, it's very unlikely that our body is going to come back from that. But what I've noticed is that when I encourage these people to use the mushroom, that somehow, and I don't know how, I don't have any science on this, and there's no way I could authenticate this, except from my experience of treating, thousands of people. Somehow it kind of does repair the root system of the body. And I'm not saying that these people reverse it and get better and don't die, but what I have noticed is that they spend a lot more time on the planet, that they end up living 6 months or years longer. And I definitely think that part of that is clearing through that emotional wasteland that we all have, especially when we're dealing with hardcore issues.
Is there pushback from people when they contact you and want to use cannabis for their issue, and you say, well, cannabis might help you, but you need mushrooms? Do they say, what are you talking about?
Mostly because they have no idea what I'm talking about. That's mostly what they say, that because they're mostly like, oh, and then they tell me that they have lion's mane, and I'm like, no, okay. That's like saying you got industrial hemp from the the grocery store, and you're wondering why it's not working. Different properties, not the same thing. So there's such a lack of education, which is why I'm so grateful that you're allowing me this time to have this conversation. That people just, we are all kind of coming from our high school, college drug experience, and nothing's worse than eating mushrooms when you don't know you're being fed them and you're with a bunch of people that you don't like and you have this horrible experience, because what the mushroom will do for you is show you what you need to see, period. It removes the veil. It allows us, cannabis does not remove the veil. Cannabis is restorative and healing for our entire body, especially our central nervous system. THC deletes cancer cells. That's what its mission is. That's its only job, to minimally reduce pain and to absolutely annihilate cancer. Other than that, and it's a fun recreational drug, but it doesn't really have much more benefit beyond that. If we look at cannabis, it's really the C family of molecules. It's the CBD, CBG, CBN, that really does the heavy lifting. And that's why that 4-to-1 formula that we've, developed over the last couple years is so effective.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic. I've learned more today than I have my entire life about mushrooms.
It's so funny, Ian.
Well, thank you.
I know it's an endless topic, and I just want, it was really, I know I just want everybody to know that I hounded Ian like just a dirty dog to get this conversation going. And the reason is because I really want to, I know a lot of people tune into this program who are living with seriously life-threatening illnesses. And, we are meant to live. If you are fighting for your life, you must be alive. Be alive now. You're not fighting for your life so you can live. You're living now. Mushrooms help us live. They help us connect to ourself, to our lineage. They help us release our pain. They help us crack that veil and step into the beauty of what is. You know, if you have a diagnosis and you're going to die, that doesn't need to be a terrible experience. I know that some people are going to be like, what did she just say? But seriously, you know, we had a client, and I think that you were part of the scene too. Me and Corey had a client. Her name was Sally, and I mention her name whenever I can. And she was an incredible warrior who was diagnosed just months after her baby boy was born. And we ended up keeping her alive for almost 9 years, I think. And she completely cleared, and then she unfortunately ended up with, you know, the cancer coming back and it taking her out and killing her brain. But this woman taught me that life was in the moment and that life was meant for living. And she really encouraged me to encourage others to do that. And she made her life an active power. And this is something that mushrooms really help us do. They help us empower ourselves, move past that fear, break down that wall, step into the center of our heart, and embrace where we're at. Because if you are in that place, it is a much more powerful place for you to be like real with your loved ones, to have that time conscious, say what you need to say, because we know that death is hard on the dying, not the dying, the living. You know, people die, they're gone, like our dear friend. I miss my friend Corey every single day.
Yeah, me
you
too.
know, there's not a day that goes by that I am just devastated that I don't have her.
Yeah,
You know, and I'm
hear
so
you.
grateful that I had that conversation with her, that she had that moment where she knew that she was going down a corridor that was not going to come back. And just like our warrior friend Sally, she spoke to those of us that she was really close to in a very direct and honest manner. And mushrooms help us break through all that BS and have those conversations with people.
Robin, give us your website address and how people can contact you, because you do consultations as well.
Yeah, we do consultations. I think there's a link that's somewhere on Cannabis Health Radio if they can't find me, but it's Swan Apothecary, and you can just reach out. I think there's a link on the site where you can download the mushroom book.
Okay.
I mean, I just want to provide information for people. That's it. You know, be a smart consumer, take care of yourself that way, and you're going to have whatever your experience is, it's going to be powerful.
And there's a link on the Cannabis Health Radio page as well that people can go to Swan Apothecary. It's very easy. Robin, you're a wonderful person, and I want to thank you for this. It's been a very informative and interesting journey. And you know what? Damn, we got to do this again.
I know. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I really, that's why we made the book free. It's just download it, read it. There's a lot of information in it. It's only like 9 pages. And Chat GPT did not write it. I just want to say that.
Okay. I love you. Thank you.
Okay, I love you too. Thank you so much, Ian.
Are you looking for quality RSO or have questions about how to take it? Al Morenton with MyFitLife is our new trusted wellness partner. And Al is offering something really special for you. A completely free 30-minute consultation to discuss your specific health challenges. Al will give you honest advice about his cannabis products and wellness supplements that might help your situation. Ready to get real answers? Go to myfitlife.net/Cannabis Health to schedule your free consultation and mention Cannabis Health Radio to receive 20% off anything you decide is right for you. Thank you for listening to Cannabis Health Radio.
Thanks for tuning in. You can find more information and check out all our past episodes at cannabishealthradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and follow us on social media and our Rumble channel. This podcast is listener supported, so if you've found it helpful, please consider making a donation, big or small, right on our site. And if you know someone who could benefit from this episode, please share it with them. Leaving a quick review also helps others discover us. We really appreciate you being here. Thanks again.